Peter Thiel is a very smart guy, and he's made a ton of money by investing in revolutionary technologies before they become widely adopted. He either founded or was an early investor in companies like PayPal, Facebook, SpaceX, and Palantir, among others. But when it comes to cryptocurrency and Ethereum in particular, he's wrong because he doesn't seem to understand the technology and its true potential. Let me show you what I mean.
Gold bullion is a store of value, low velocity money. It moves once, every few decades in a central bank vault. Visa, super high velocity, moves trillions of dollars a year. I want to obviously suggest that, Bitcoin and Ethereum are at these two extreme opposite ends of the spectrum. Bitcoin, store of value, gold replacement. Ethereum, if it works, is going to be sort of the super high velocity, fast moving thing. And there's sort of a question, how do we compare and contrast them? And so if we look at the current market caps, 830 billion versus 386 billion of Ethereum, but if we map Bitcoin onto gold and Ethereum onto Visa, well, Ethereum's worth roughly as much as Visa, so it's fairly valued. If you have a seamless, frictionless payment system, it's worth $400 billion, whereas gold is 12 trillion. And if Bitcoin is going to replace gold, the question is really, why is it so undervalued?
So here Peter Thiel is saying that Ethereum is currently appropriately valued because he's comparing it to Visa, and Visa's market cap is somewhat similar to Ethereum's market cap. On the other hand, he thinks that Bitcoin still has 10x potential because he's comparing it to gold, and he's seeing these two things as mutually exclusive. The issue is that Ethereum is not at all like Visa, and so I think that's actually an inappropriate comparison, and it leads him to some conclusions that I don't agree with. For example, I think Ethereum still has significant upside potential, and that this is really an oversimplification that is understating all of the value propositions that come with Ethereum. And I also think that Ethereum might capture some of the gold market share as a store of value. Now, let me explain what I'm talking about. First of all, Ethereum's objective is not to simply be a frictionless, high-velocity payment system. And if anything, that might actually be more suitable to Bitcoin in a number of ways. Now, in some sense, Ethereum can be considered internet money, but it can also be so many other things. For ETH to actually be good internet money, the gas fees for using the Ethereum network would have to decrease significantly, which Peter Thiel correctly points out. And so I think it's actually more likely that the best internet money is going to be a layer 2 blockchain that's built upon the Ethereum network. And that suggests that Ethereum could also be considered the settlement layer for Web3, where different apps and blockchains are built upon it for additional security. But above and beyond that, Ethereum is so much more than a simple settlement network. For example, owning ETH represents owning partial shares in the Ethereum network. ETH holders get to participate in the growth of the network through the price appreciation of their assets, especially post-merge, once Ethereum becomes deflationary. And you can also consider the fact that ETH is burned through transactions to be kind of similar to share buybacks, or if you stake your ETH, you get a yield on that, and that's kind of similar to dividends. So in that sense, owning ETH is kind of similar to owning shares in a company. And another part of this is that when we look at these staking yields with Ethereum, which currently hover around 4%, but are projected to increase to around 10%, potentially even higher after the merge, and that is kind of similar to bond yields. So owning ETH could also be compared to owning bonds. Finally, just like Bitcoin, I would suggest that owning Ether tokens can also be considered a store of value. And I'm not the only one to think this. So when Peter Thiel suggests that Bitcoin is going to take over gold's market share for the store of value market, I don't think it's quite as cut and dry as that. And I think that a certain percentage of the store of value market is actually going to accrue to ETH and potentially to other cryptocurrencies as well, not just Bitcoin. The ultrasound money meme exists for a reason, and there's definitely a pretty significant percentage of ETH holders that are in Ethereum because they see it as a store of value. So no, I don't think that ETH is comparable to Visa, and it's certainly not just a simple payments system like Peter Thiel is suggesting. And so when you look at what its current market cap is and whether or not it actually has potential to grow, if you see it simply as a payment system, as Peter Thiel seems to, then you might come to the conclusion that it's fairly valued today and so maybe doesn't have as much upside. But if you look at all of the other things that ETH is and the potential that those other aspects of it have, then we can see that there's certainly some room for growth there. So by making this comparison that Peter Thiel did at the Bitcoin conference last month, I think he's showing us that he doesn't fully understand what Ethereum is, what its use cases are, and what its potential can be. The velocity versus value spectrum is an oversimplification, and while it might have worked when comparing fiat currency to gold, when we're talking about cryptocurrencies like Ethereum and Bitcoin, it's kind of like using a 2D model to try and demonstrate something that's multi-dimensional. It just doesn't work. Bitcoin isn't just a simple store of value system, and Ethereum isn't simply a high velocity payment system. And the fact that a legendary tech investor like Peter Thiel thinks this way just demonstrates to me how early we are in terms of actual widespread adoption and understanding of what this technology is and what it can accomplish. And to me, that's a very bullish signal for the future.